it's over. You will die here. You will die all by yourself with no one to witness it. So I want to know, how frightened are you?
Ulqiorra, Cifer. Espada number 4, most beloved of all the Espada, and the most misunderstood, but yet the perfect fitting of what an antagonist should be. A hollow that is missing something, that is holding them back from becoming a human, which is pretty symbolic of the hole he has in his chest. He was born into darkness and was cursed by Aizen with and becoming the embodiment of nihilism, the belief that life is meaningless. And with all of that, we are left with Ulqiorra, Espada number 4. But let's not get too much into that. If you guys, however, would like me to continue on that thought and make some videos on that, feel free to let me know in the comments section, and maybe I will. But on that note, what's going on, you guys? Laxo here again. And today we will be covering Ulqiorra. Next on the list of the character analysis, and we will be breaking him down completely. First thing I will be covering is his kit, and then I will be going over his Warsouls, and then I'll be getting into what teams he works on, going over some team comps that you can run with him, as well as some battles that you can run, or that I will be running with him. And then, of course, I will be going over my thoughts and everything of how he runs in 1v1. Of course, I do not have 1v1 active, so I cannot show you actual gameplay of him 1v1. And then I will be moving on to just giving him grades on how I think he does in 6v6, 1v1. And of course, finally, how Oasis actually implemented him and his kit into Bleach Immortal Souls, and, giving that a grade, of course. So on that note, guys, feel free to check the description below where you will find all the timestamps, and once again, feel free to click around to wherever you'd like, because this video may be a long one. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into it here. So, Ulqiorra Cifer. Let's check out his mastery skill here. So, deals damage to a single enemy and recovers 15% of his missing HP and increases 75% effect reduction rate for 1 round. So, this is actually really, really strong. I mean, of course, it is a mastery skill that regens just percentage base HP. Of course, missing HP, but that's not dependent upon, it caps out on, 200% of his attack or something like that. No, it's actually just 15% of all the HP that he's missing. Not to mention, of course, that he has 75% increased effect reduction rate, so that round, he's pretty much immune to all CCs, which is amazing. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out his rage skill here. Deals damage to a column of enemies, restoring 28% of his missing HP, and inflicts burning lasting for 2 rounds on the target. Deals an extra 3% damage to the target for each stack of dot effects, and restores 3% of the missing HP. Front row allies, damage reduction rate is increased by 15% for 1 round. I think a lot of people actually forget about that with him. Matter of fact, I think everybody just forgets pretty much everything about his kit, besides maybe his passive. But I feel like a lot of people forget that he provides damage reduction to the front row. Not to mention, of course, extra damage. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out his passive here, and then I will get to how everything's tied together. So all allies dot damage increases greatly when deployed, and at the beginning of each round, Solita Vista marks a random enemy target for 1 round. And what does this do? When allied target deals damage to the marked target, allied target regenerates 2.5% of their max HP, and the marked enemy target receives 10% extra damage. So, obviously, that works really well, as described in Squad Boss. If you can get him to 4-star and toss him in your Squad Boss lineup, he pretty much acts as a tank for the front line. He gives a bunch of dot effect, and on top of that, he just provides HP for the entire team, and of course the extra damage. But with that being said, check this out. All dots that you do with characters on your team, as long as he's on there, all dot damage is increased by 52%. This was actually a bug once. It was actually giving 100%, because I remember testing it out and running through his Sleet of Vista passive, and all the dot damage was doubled, and I was just like, this guy's busted right now. But I'm pretty sure they just hot fixed it, or shadow fixed it, and they brought it back down to 52.14%. And we can actually I can actually show you that here. So as you guys can see here, I have Nell on the team, and she provides bleed to the entire enemy team. So we're going to see one bleed proc, and we're going to slow it down so we can see what it is. So it was about 132k on Orihime, and this is without Ulqiorra. So let's take a look with Ulqiorra. Alright, so here we are. We actually have Ulqiorra on our team. Same setup. Now we just get to see the proc. It should be around 200k on Orihime. 202k. So you see that just by swapping in Ulqiorra, all my bleed did over 50% more damage. So all those damage procs that we just saw on Nell had 50% increased damage just because Ulqiorra was on the team. Not to mention, of course, that there was damage reduction on the front row team, but we'll get more into that in a minute. So that is why he was a pretty popular unit when he first came out, because that's just what a lot of people forget is the dot damage, the extra damage, the healing, the effect reduction. He has it all. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out now. Let's go ahead and get into his Warsouls here. I don't have any actually on him, so we're just going to go over this really quickly here. So Warsouls, I actually have tested, obviously, a lot of him. I've done Warsouls with him for a while, so you can run a bunch of Warsouls on him because, of course, he is a defensive specialty, so, or a tank, I should say. So we can run things like Warsoul of Armor, you know, just give him a bunch of damage reduction, some block chance is pretty good. Of course, you can run Courage, just give him a bunch of block chance and block strength. Earlier servers, that's really, really strong on him, of course. Especially when he heals back the damage that's done to him, really strong. Vigilance is pretty good because, of course, he heals based off his missing health, so he just heal more health, of course, and, of course, reduce damage reduction rate, so that's pretty good as well. And let's see here. Warsoul that I've been actually testing on him is the Warsoul of Vengeance, because I actually do want to try and create a nice bleed team, so Ulqiorra may be on that team. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out some others. Dharma Warsoul, of course. The Sushi Warsoul, those aren't too bad, because he gets low and then his defense or damage reduction is just skyrocketed. And crit resist chance, might I add. So then he can just heal it back, of course, with his rage skill and mastery skill. Heals back really, really strong. And then a Warsoul that everybody actually really likes to run on him, I actually have tested it quite a bit, is the Warsoul of the Saint, that just increases your healing by, I think, like 25% or so. So it's actually pretty good. I do suggest giving it a shot if you're trying to get a really good healing unit. It actually works pretty well on him. It gives him a little bit of attack, not much, but it's more so just for the healing. So that is a pretty good one as well. Of course, you can run Donut Warsoul if you have it, but let's go ahead and move on to his character Warsouls. Okay, so of course, if you're trying to just cap block chance, then The Warsaw of Temper is actually not too bad. You know, that 31% increased block chance is pretty strong. And usually when he drops below 50% health, he usually just heals it right back up, of course, with his built-in healing. So that is pretty good. Warsaw of Evil, not so much. Don't really use that too much on him if I were to use it on him. If you just want him to, once again, carry Warsouls to heal himself and heal others, then of course the Warsaw of Healing is pretty good, along with the Warsaw of the Tides. That is pretty good as well. Of course, it does give him that nice little boost to HP, and it does give him some rage back pretty quickly, so that's nice. I have tested the Warsaw of Chaos. I don't really feel it too much on him, but you can give that a shot in case you're trying to run him in like 1v1 or something like that. It does help a little bit. The Warsaw Permafrost is nice because it pushes him to get his mastery skill out faster, which again gives him that huge effect reduction rate, which is really, really key to his kit. Let's hear, what else do we have here? Of course, any other, Warsaw that heals him or gives him a shield, this and that, is also pretty good on him as well, because he is one of the older units, so when he does get crit, it does hurt him quite a bit. So those Warsouls do help out a little bit. Let's see here. Of course, you could have him as just a mule, a carrier of just support Warsouls for the team, so you could toss on something like Soaring, of course. That would work pretty well on him. Unfortunately, Vitality only works on the, I believe, character that's holding it, so that goes on Null or Stark. And then, once again, any of these other Warsouls actually do help out a little bit here and there, so you could toss on any of those Warsouls. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out some team comps we can be running him in. Okay, so here we are running, this is just units that you should have available to you at the time. So this right here is pretty much just a rough bleed team, I guess you could say. So right here we have, of course, Ichigo. We have a healer, then we have 2 tanks in the front row. And then back here, well, you could actually even swap like that if you're trying to get Ulqiorra to survive longer. But back here we just have bleed, and then of course Urahara gives us shields off the bleed, so he is pretty nice in there. You could also, if you don't have like Orihime, you can swap in Unohana there, and let's just say you want to run some more bleeds that are immediate. You can go ahead and toss in Ichigo there. That way you can get even more shields off of Urahara. So that's actually a pretty feasible team. Not super ideal, but again, this is just a rough estimate of what you have available as soon as you get him. However, if you're looking at team comps that you'd actually like to run with him in, that, I don't know, people of the later servers or earlier servers can run, let's take a look at those. Alright, so here we can actually for the we can actually swap in several different Black Tortoise characters here, but this team I feel is a little squishy, so I went ahead and tossed Nemu in there just to get some reses off. Of course, I have Ulqiorra in there just because this is a pretty strong bleed-based team. And then Sogyo's in there just to, amplify the damage, because, of course, this is going to be a big burst team, AoE big burst team. So we have him in there just to really amplify the damage. Then Byakuya is in there to apply bleeds, as well as try and rage loop maybe, burst damage. And then, of course, Nil, she starts off with all the bleeds in the enemy team, as well as, bleeding and proccing all the bleeds. That's why you really want to have Byakuya first. That way Nel can proc all those extra bleeds. And then, of course, we have Urahara, of course, for the shields. But, of course, there are different substitutes you can run. Like, if you don't have Sogyo, you could toss in Nini, Rukia, Kid Byakuya. There's several different characters you could just toss in there just for flavor. Or who knows, if you're trying to go like really big bursty and get those bleeds off, just toss in White Ichigo, But yeah, it's not a bad. I actually do like running Ulqiorra on some teams, especially bleed oriented teams, because he does provide that extra that extra bleed damage, which, of course, if you're going for the super bleed damage, then, you know, you can go ahead and take out something like Byakuya, you know, toss in Stark here, and there you have, you know, double bleeds. So proc bleeds, apply bleeds, proc bleeds, apply bleeds, and then, of course, shields. So this is also a really, really strong team comp as well, especially if you have a Stark and Nell at a pretty decent level. They are pretty beefy. And of course, if you're trying to run like a troll team comp, you know, you could toss Ishin in there too to apply all the bleeds. I'm sorry, to actually to proc the bleeds. And then you can have a character like Loopy in there, of course, if you're trying to go really troll. Loopy doubles the amount of all the dots on the team, which is pretty good as well. So if you can get all these characters to go off, it actually applies. Let's do the math here. So we have 1 base, 2, 3, 4, and then we can get an extra 5 if we have Aizen. I'm sorry, if we have Byakuya, and then we can have double the bleeds, so we can have 10 stacks of bleed with Loopy, and then we will proc the bleeds with Nell, Stark, and Ishin. So we're looking at 10, we're looking at like 20, 25 procs of bleed on the enemy team, plus of course, if you can get it to go off pretty smoothly. So it's actually a really disgusting team comp. I actually do like running bleed team comps and then just waiting till the end of the round, and then all of a sudden you get that tick of damage and you just see half the HP bar of the enemy just disappear instantly. You're like, oh, that was a nice proc of, you know, 50 bleeds there in one pop. So it's actually a lot of fun to run those team comps. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look here at this battle. So I'm trying to only use units that you have available to you at this moment of actually getting Ulqiorra. So what I have here is, again, I'm trying to also put burns and poisons on the team as well, because that damage also gets a 50% extra boost from Ulqiorra's passive. So as you can see, I put bleeds in the entire team, and now I'm going to get the shields. It would be nice if I had access to Neliel at this point, because my shields would just be huge at this point. But fortunately, they're just kind of small. But anyways, so unfortunately, Ulqiorra did not get his mastery skill right now, so unfortunately he's going to get CC'd from this, I think, right? Yeah, he got CC here. If he had his mastery skill off last round, then that CC would not have happened, but unfortunately it happened. So once again, you'll see some procs here. There you go. That's some pretty good damage. And then I have Ichigo in here just to give a little bit of rage, and then here are the poison stacks again. Everything, all the poison stacks are plus 50%. If you had awakened runes on Mayuri, then that would be double poison, which would be really, really strong. So Ulqiorra barely survived that round, but all he needed was to survive because look at his health. He started off the round with like a little less than 25% health, and now he's at about 75% health, just from Unohana and himself, his own heal. So that helps out quite a bit. Also, once again, you can't forget about Solita Vista, the eye that appears above all the enemy. And again, it refreshes every round, so it's not like once the enemy's dead it goes away. It's actually going to refresh. That gives a bunch of extra damage as well as the actual healing. You can't forget the actual healing. It's kind of like a mini Sogyo no Kotoari, because you get that extra healing. So that is kind of nice, but you don't get Sogyo for about, you know, over 2 years into playing the game, as opposed to Ulqiorra. You get him, you know, 2 months into playing the game. So definitely a good budget Sogyo, because he does that extra damage, he gives the heals, he does everything for you. But as you can see at this point, it's GG, and let's go ahead and take a look here at the actual teams, because you can't forget that I'm going against a full prismatic blue 2 team, and I myself am running only, I believe, orange 2? Yeah, orange 1. Look, I got orange 1. Actually, Ulqiorra's red. So I got blue, I got orange, 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 orange. I have all these oranges, and I'm running against prismatic blues, and I'm still managing to do so well because that, again, you get the extra damage reduction from Ulqiorra, because he gets that. This is actually why it works and syncs so well together, is because when Ulqiorra rages, he gets his health back from his rage attack, and then he gets that extra damage reduction rate to the entire front row. So it's kind of like a double whammy, you know? It helps you out in 2 different ways. So once again, a lot of people do talk trash on Ulqiorra, but we're going to show one more battle here real quick. Alright, so I have seen people run Ulqiorra in the actual, rage slot over here, and he actually is viable in there, because he does get the Solidivista Eye. He does get that out there. He doesn't get the actual extra 50% dot damage, but he does, of course, give you that passive right there, which is nice. As well as the actual burn. If you put him in the first slot, he gives the burn on the enemy team, and of course he gives you that extra 15% damage reduction for your front row line. So if you're trying to survive that front row, you need a little bit extra, damage reduction. You can toss Ulqiorra in the number 1 rage slot, and he will instantly rage and give you an extra 15% damage reduction on that front line. So that is viable as well. You can run him in that slot. But in this team comp, I'm pretty much just running a troll team comp, to be honest here. I went ahead and tossed Nell and Start in the 2 rage slots, just so Nell can get off huge burst rage damage, as well as the bleeds, and then I have 2 more bleed procs right there, and followed up by just a bunch of shields from Urahara. If you notice, I think everybody got like a 25% shield, and this should be doing some big boy damage right now. Yeah, 7 mil. So then you'll see, watch, look at this shield that we're going to get from Urahara right now. It's going to be like 25% HP. Yeah, just from all of those bleed stacks he has out there, he got all that. And not to mention when you saw Star Gold, or Rage, you saw all the bleed stacks tick immediately. And by the way, that's an extra 50% damage on every bleed stack. And all that is solely because of Ulqiorra. And notice that Ulqiorra didn't do anything this battle. He didn't do anything. He was just there, and since he was there, all that extra damage and everything, damage reduction, all that stuff, we got that. Well, maybe not the damage reduction because he didn't rage, but all the extra damage and everything, we got that. Specifically just because he is there. He doesn't even have to do anything to be useful. And I know a lot of people do like to dog on him for that, like, oh, he's so bad, he doesn't do anything. But I think people forget what the core benefits of what he actually gives to a team. So, with that being said, I didn't. A lot of people say, oh, you wasted whatever Omni Shards on Ulqiorra. No. Ulqiorra is very, very strong. Even to today's standards, he is pretty strong. I don't see any other units, well, besides maybe Hallibell, giving such huge boosts to dot damage. So, once again, Ulqiorra, I still like him. Even to this day, I think he's a good character and viable. And actually, a funny story, I found some old footage of mine that I actually have Ulqiorra running. So let's go ahead and take a look at this really quickly here. So in 1v1. So Ulqiorra here, I believe I have him on pure damage. I have him as a damage dealer in this scenario. So, and he's going against a Vassal or Ichigo. I think this is like I forgot how many stars it was, but it's a pretty good Vassal or Ichigo if Green Lantern has it. So, as you can see, I sustained all of his crits that he did to me. I outlived all the crits, and then I raged immediately. So I got that damage reduction buff. I went from like 25 to like 65, 70% health, which is really nice. And then Ichigo just keeps on critting, but I out heal him. I out sustain him. I survive him. I apply that bleed, so now he has that dot that is ticking for an extra 50% damage, and that dot right there finishes him off. However, that's not to say that he's good against all units in 1v1. He is my, quote unquote secret weapon in 1v1, but unfortunately there are characters like Nell, for example, that just completely counter him in every way. All right, so on this one, once again, I am running Ulqiorra as well. This time I'm running him up against base Ichigo. Base Ichigo is kind of garbage. Base Ichigo is kind of garbage, but Ulqiorra, we get to see how he performs. Once again, you see Salida Vista over there. You get the defense up, the attack up, because I have the Eisen Warsouls on him. Actually, surprise, surprise. And then he does take damage from the Ichigo, but once again, he just look at that. He heals so much damage, or he heals so much up that I don't really have to worry too much. He just out sustains most all characters. And the funny thing is, not too many people run Ulqiorra in 1v1s anymore. I think they just think he fell off, he's no longer that great. But yet, if you run him against pretty much all defense specialty units, he will win most all defense specialty units. There are a lot of attack units. He just wins outright because he counters them. Of course, you have to have him built right and get some maybe lucky procs as well. And then the problem he has is against skill specialties, like Nell, for example. Nell is just a complete counter of him, but I still think he's S tier in 1v1. Absolutely, like the best. I probably shouldn't say that. I probably shouldn't give him a grade now, but I still think he's the best. And again, one thing I've been doing recently is I have been keeping him out of my 1v1 team comps when I don't need him, and then when I see somebody running up against me and I'm like, oh, this is a bad matchup for most of my characters, I just slip Ulqiorra in there, and he pretty much 3v1s the entire team. Nobody expects the Ulqiorra because everybody just expects him to disappear. They don't expect an Ulqiorra to be in there, and yet I could just slip him in there at the last second, and he'll just win me the match outright, which is really, really nice. So with all that being said, we're back to Ulqiorra, and on top of that, we're going to give him some grades here now. Okay, so in 6v6, once again, a lot of people just don't like him. They talk trash about him. They say he's terrible, this and that. And that's what really, really inspired me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make the video right about Ulqiorra. One, he's my favorite character. And two, he's an extremely underrated character. Undervalued character. Especially on the early servers, very undervalued. As soon as you get that Nell drop, Ulqiorra becomes an MVP for your team every time. Just toss him on the front line. He's super tanky. He'll out-tank, he'll out-sustain. He gives you 50% extra bleed damage, burn damage, poison damage. He's a beast. And I think a lot of people overlook that about him. And he's a lot better than people say. So, anyways, with that being said and concluded, 6v6. I think I want to give him probably an A minus. I'm going to give him an A somewhere between an A and an A minus. Once I covered it earlier, I said he's not very tanky, and that is a problem, especially in 6v6 when you have all these top-notch, huge burst damage dealers on the enemy team nowadays. So he doesn't last super long unless you have a really good, sustained team. Like you put Nemu in there to, res him. But I still think he's a very solid and viable unit nowadays, especially in like World Championship where all your teams are running really thin. If you just slide Ulqiorra in there on a bleed team comp, nobody's going to expect that extra burst damage from all your dots across the board. So once again, I'm going to go with a somewhere between an A and an A minus for Ulqiorra on 6v6. In 1v1, I just covered that. He's a beast. He's top notch, underrated in every aspect of 1v1. People do not understand the value that they get with Ulqiorra. I understand it's kind of misunderstand. You misunderstand a lot of his skills, but in 1v1, that's where he shines the most, especially on the early servers. If you get a 4-star, 5-star, 6-star Ulqiorra, you slide him in there, he will 1v1 the entire enemy team, no doubt. So if you're trying to win in a cheap and early, first place Kenpachi contest team or battle, get Ulqiorra to 5, 6-star, slide him in there, make sure you max out his heroic Warsoul, of course, and then you just slide him in there and have him 1v3 the entire enemy team. Matter of fact, he'd probably 1v9 if he could the entire enemy. That's how good he is in 3v, in 1v1. So, with that being said, yeah, I give him an S tier, easy S tier for me. I think he is still top notch. Again, there are characters that outperform him. Most all of them are all these skill specialty units, especially like Vasalorde. No, a bunch of these skill specialty units will just outperform because they can, big burst him, and there's not really much Ulqiorra can do because of that burst, and because he gets the skill specialty against to counter his defense specialty. So there's not a lot he could do there in 1v1s, but I still think he's top-notch, best. If you're looking at people's 1v1 teams and you see, oh, they're running whatever 3 defense specialty or 3 attack specialty or any combination of the two, slide Ulqiorra in there last minute, he will 1v3 the entire enemy team, no problem. But then again, it's kind of dependent on Warsouls, luck, and initiative, I guess. But anyways, with that being said, this video is carrying on pretty long here, so we need to wrap it up. Let's go ahead and give him a grade on his canon or lore, or how they actually implemented him into the game. So, right here, the mastery skill, Unstoppable Assaults. It's funny because this is actually, I'm not sure if you guys remember when he battles Ichigo in Hueco Mundo, he uses this attack, and Ichigo's sitting there like, okay, gotta counter, and he's trying to remember, and then he grabs, Ulqiorra's arm. I'd like to show you a clip of that, but I don't want to get copyright struck, so I'm just going to show you an image. So here, at this point in time, you can see Ulqiorra and Ichigo are actually fighting in Hueco Mundo. And during this time, Ulqiorra just lets out a barrage of attacks, the assault. And Ichigo's just trying to dodge him and paying attention and watching closely. And then here he grabs Ulqiorra's hand. So we actually get to see this attack in the actual anime itself. So that is pretty cool that they actually implemented this as his mastery skill in the game. I do like that a lot. But moving on to his rage here, we have Awakened Seto. So this, obviously he uses many times over. How many times does he use Seto in the actual anime itself? So I guess we could just pull up one really quickly here. So once again, this is the same scene where they're fighting, and then you can see Ulqiorra just draw back really quickly here. As you can see, he's, he has his sword, he's like parrying Ichigo, and then he pulls out his finger, and then he uses Seto. And of course, Ichigo wasn't really too prepared for the Seto, so he gets blown away, obviously. As you can see, they actually even got the coloring right, which is what I really, really like about it, is they actually got coloring of the Seto correct as well. I mean, to be completely honest, I'm surprised that they weren't really paying attention and just said, oh, Seta Oscuris. And, you know, obviously mess it up. But, yeah, I just like the fact that they even implemented the Seto in there as well. And then, of course, you have Solida Vista, which, if you remember earlier, actually, no. This is his passive. And in the actual anime himself, he actually pulls out his eye and breaks it and actually shows eyes in everything that he sees. And it's super cool that they even actually implemented this so he sees everything, you know, which I guess could apply extra dot or extra damage or this and that to the enemy. So it's weird how they implemented it and put it in, but nonetheless, I do like the fact that they made it a picture of his eye, which is pretty awesome. However, I guess it's not really his eye because his eyes are green and this one's blue, so maybe that's not really super correct, but nonetheless, it's awesome that they actually did that. So, in concluding, honestly, this is the best one I've seen yet. This is A+, S+ implementation. They did a great job on his kit. They did a great job putting his kit together, making it work together really, really well. And lastly, you know, actually putting together his skills and aligning them with the actual anime itself. So, yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed in every way possible. Everything that they did with Ulqiorra, I'm blown away. And once again, this is not because I'm just some fanboy for Ulqiorra. I think they actually did a really, really good job. Maybe it's just a hot take, but nonetheless, it's my personal opinion. I think they did a great job. Once again, I'm going to go with A for 6v6, S for 1v1, and S for his kit. Fantastic job all the way around. However, guys, that is actually going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed everything that I put together. I spent a lot of time on this video. Probably the most time I ever spent on a single video was this one right here. And yeah, I enjoyed making it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And again, this is just another video in the series of me going through all the characters released in order. And so the next character I'm actually going to be breaking down, let's just say I'll go over Nell. I think Nell was next on the original timeline. I'm not sure how she's going to I'm not sure where she's going to be on the alternate timeline, or this one that we're on right now, or the new one. But let's go over Nell next. I think she'd be a fun character to cover. And once again, she works perfectly well, syncs perfectly well with Ulqiorra. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll go ahead and go over her next. And yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. If you guys haven't already subscribed and enjoyed this content, I do a lot of content just like this. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, hit me up in the comments section. Or you could join my Discord. That'll be in the description as well. Feel free to hit me up on my Discord. We can chat. You can ask questions, anything like that. Feel free. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. And so once again, guys, thank you for watching. And I'm going to leave you with these words. And don't forget, I'll catch y'all in the next one.
Your heart, you say? You humans always toss around that word so casually, as if it's something you can hold in the palm of your hand. But my eyes can see everything.
Nothing exists that I can't see. So if I can't see it, it's not real. That is what I believe.